So I feel like over the last, I guess, a decade or so, like one of the big things has been like digital nomads, right?
Yeah.
And one of the cool things with starting Cambridge is there are a lot of these, like, I would call them diasporic nomads,
Yeah.
where they're like people of Korean heritage and they just like jump around from place to place.
Yeah.
So they have interesting backgrounds. And I would like probably classify you in that category.
Yeah.
Can you give a little bit of background on like what you're doing here in Seoul, but also like what other places you have been as well?
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. First, yeah, thanks for having me. It's my first podcast, so kind of nervous. But yeah, so right now I'm in Korea, Seoul right now, doing my military service. So I'm doing alternative military service, which is where some people get to work as startup for 2 years and some go to the military. So I've been doing that since last year, and then I'm going back to the US later this year in December. So, but when I was born here, but my family moved to Iowa, to the US when I was 2 years old, to Iowa. I've never seen any Koreans that were from Iowa, but recently, but there was just one guy I met, Ryan Kim, last week, but he said he's from Iowa, but besides him, I never met anyone who's like from the Midwest. So I grew up there, and then like obviously a very rural town, and then we came back to Korea for a couple of years to do my elementary school. And then after that I went back again. I lived in like a lot of different places. Like I went to like boarding school in Nebraska, and then like Canada, and then Vermont, and then eventually we moved to California, Irvine, California, so I can go to high school there. Yeah. And then I went to college to Georgia Tech, and then I came back to Korea to COVID, and then I went to Berkeley, and then now I'm back to do my military service.
So you've and how old are you now roughly?
I'm 24.
24.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize you were only in Iowa for like a handful of years, and then you came back to Korea for elementary school.
Not for the whole, but like the latter half. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you remember your experience in Iowa at all?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, so I mean, I kind of like Iowa. Like since I lived in like other places as well, like the East Coast and like California, I think Iowa people, there were. I mean, it might be because like I lived there when I was like younger, but people, I felt like they were more like pure-hearted, and I mean they were kind of like and then like everyone just hang out together, because like in California there are like factions and like cliques, because like I feel like even though California's more diverse, so the minor groups are bigger, so minor groups just hang out with each other, so there are cliques. But in Iowa I feel like I got along with everyone pretty well, and yeah,
it does seem like in the Midwest, when I went out to the Bay Area, like I had.
Oh, you're also from the Midwest?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm from Chicago.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. So
but Chicago was kind of like a pretty urban. Yeah, it's probably pretty diverse, right?
I feel like if you get into the city, like the young professionals, the city folks, maybe a little bit different values and priorities. But I'm from like 45 minutes northwest of Chicago, so I'm in one of the suburbs, and I feel like I noticed it pretty. It was pretty obvious to me, like when I went out to the Bay Area, that social dynamics and values, and I feel like a lot of Midwesterners have more like familial values, that became more obvious to me when I went out to the Bay Area and then came back to Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
But you are right now, you're living in Seoul.
Yeah.
You're doing alternative military service, right? How long have you been in Korea for?
So I came back to, I came to Korea last year, January 24. Yeah. So it's been like 24th. A year. It's been a year and a month. Yeah.
And you're going to stick around through the end of 2025?
Yeah. So I'm going back in December this year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like in aggregates over the course of your life, like in terms of total years that you've spent in Korea, what is it roughly? Like 5 or 6 years? Less than that?
It's more than that.
I think. More than that.
So I've been here for a year, and then during COVID I was here for like 2-3 years, and then for elementary school. So overall, I think like 8 years something.
8 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And can you tell me a little bit about like the reasons why you jumped around from place to place, like Iowa, Vermont, Canada, I guess like Georgia, and then California? Like,
I mean, there are different reasons. So I mean, first of all, when we moved to US when I was 2 years old, my mom, after she finished her PhD here at SNU, she went to a postdoc to Iowa State. That's why when we first went to Iowa State.
Hmm.
So I was always curious, like, wait, why did you go to Iowa State of all the schools? Like, there's so many like schools in East Coast and West Coast. So why Iowa? Like, and then I mean, I've been like asking her that like for 20 years, and she's like, oh yeah, Iowa's a good program. I was okay, sure, whatever.
Hmm.
And then, but I recently realized actually, so she's into like chemical food engineering. So she does like
Chemical food engineering.
Food.
Food.
Yeah.
Food
So
engineering.
it's kind of like Beyond Meat and those kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, eco-friendly, like, so like making like meat out of like
Plant-based.
Plant-based, yeah.
Yeah.
So and I realized that I recently like found out like a couple of years ago, actually Iowa State is like the second best agricultural like food program in the US. Okay, that's why. But I didn't realize that for like the first 20 years of my life. So I was like, why did I just grow up in this random town? But yeah, so that's when we first went to Iowa. And then after she finished her postdoctorate, she got a job offer in Korea. So we came back, and then my parents split up. This kind of TMI, but my parents split up, and then my dad went abroad, and then I went abroad with him, and then I first went to boarding school near Iowa, so that was Nebraska, and then I just didn't like it.
So wait, you went back to Iowa then with your dad, or?
Yeah. So and then I didn't like. So and then we went to the Midwest, still in the Midwest, and then I didn't like it there. So I told him I wanted to go to East Coast. So and then I went to Vermont because at the time I liked Bernie Sanders, but not right now.
At the time you liked what?
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders. Yeah.
But not right now. But yeah, it's like I don't want to get too political here, but
you can if you want.
So at the time, yeah, I mean, I was into economics. So I was into economics in middle school. I read a lot of economics books.
You were into economics in middle school?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a pretty unusual thing for middle school.
Also, like, so I participated in like the National Economics Challenge, which is like the economics competition for high schoolers.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like second place in state. So I did a lot of economics in high school and middle school and early high school. So and then there are a lot of like left-leaning economics books that obviously more recently like Keynesian, like they're like more pro-government and stuff. So and then Bernie Sanders aligned with that at the time. So at the time I wanted to meet Bernie Sanders, and actually I got to meet Bernie Sanders. I shook hands with him.
Oh, really?
When I went to Vermont, so I stayed with the host family because my family didn't go there, but my host family told like Bernie Sanders' office that I was coming there just to see Bernie, and he wrote me a letter. Yeah.
Do you still have the letter?
Yeah, to welcome me.
What?
Welcoming me to. Oh yeah, he's like, oh yeah, welcome to Vermont. Like we should have a lot of international students like you in the U.S. And then he sent me like a letter, and then like and then it was framed, and then I got that. And then I met him.
What, how old were you when you were in Vermont? Like this was like middle school
16
age?
or something, yeah.
So you decided to go to boarding school in Vermont, or was it a boarding school?
No. I stayed with the host family, but in Vermont for Vermont. So this was so that was Vermont. But when I was in Vermont, but I got more into tech because I studied more economics. I was learning about like this. So I feel like economists are more like observers of society. But there's like if there's like production curve for like trading like goods A and B, there's a trade-off, right? But in order to like extend the production curve, like one of the very few ways is to do that is through technology. And then at the time, there was like Snapchat IPO around the time, or like I'm not sure when, but within 1 or 2 years of that time, there was Snapchat IPO, and then Snapchat was about to do IPO, and then I thought like building like a company or a product that a lot of people use was really cool. And then the CEO was also super young, so he was like, okay, I took a lot of inspiration from it. So a lot of things.
Wait,
like,
who?
Snapchat.
Was
about to do IPO, around the time. And then also like I met like one of these like friends that was really like pro like more capitalism, like free market capitalism, like one of in Vermont. So he became one of my best friends, and he told me a lot about like Peter Thiel and like Frederick Hayek, Milton Friedman. So I got introduced to like more free market capitalism from him. So after that, and I wanted to get into more programming and coding, so I wanted to move to California. So fortunately, my really close friend of my dad's was living in Irvine, so we went to Irvine. And that's how I ended up in Irvine, in high school there.
Wow. And so when you were in Vermont with the host family,
Yeah.
was that through some sort of like an official program?
I just just I'm not sure exactly because my parents looked it up. I just wanted to go to Vermont. Yeah.
And how many years were you there for?
Just a year.
Just a year.
Yeah.
And your dad was in the States.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And then we moved to California, and then stayed in California before I went to college. Yeah.
So when you were growing up, like moving from state to state, from Korea and the U.S., kind of bouncing back and forth, in terms of like your friend group, what were they?
Oh, yeah.
Were they a mix of Korean and American people?
Oh, no.
I mean,
So when I was in the US, like I didn't have any Korean friends. So actually, I personally like. I'm not sure if I should say this, but I usually just I try to hang out with like the people there, and then international students mostly I hang out with people from like other countries like Egypt or like Spain. I have some friends from Egypt and Spain.
But the reason why you didn't have a lot of Korean friends, was that because you were just not around a lot of, like when you're in Iowa, I imagine there's like basically not that many Koreans there.
Yeah.
But
in
even
California,
even in California, it was the same
So I mean, like I
situation.
feel like just most of the like Korean guys, Indian guys, or Chinese guys, they're their own cliques and they just hang out with each other. I didn't like that, so I just wanted to hang out with like anyone that I found interesting. And then I didn't like to be part of that kind of clique.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Even for me, with the building the K-Bridge like ecosystem, I'm doing it because there are a lot of people with different Korean heritage backgrounds, but I don't speak Korean well, so I can't even really have that many conversations with like real conversations with like Korean people, and I figured there should be a community with people of all different diverse backgrounds. But even when I was like in the Bay Area, it was, if you are part of these like Korean societies or organizations, it's hard to also mingle with, I guess, like people of other backgrounds. It's because they kind of view you as like, okay, you're part of that ecosystem. You know?
Yeah. So when I first went to California, when I first showed up to school, so there were like 2 students that were new at the school. Everyone else were from the area, so they all knew each other from like middle school or elementary school. So me and this other guy, I think he was from Arizona or something. So we were the 2 new guys, and then the kids there would like first when the 2 of us showed up would just start talking to the other guy, and I was like, wait, what's going on? What's happening? and then later I realized there are like a lot of cliques, and then like a lot of people. Korean people just hang out with each other. So I think they just assumed that I was one of those cliques. So yeah. So, and also I think just in general, there's a lot more, there's a lot to learn from, and there's a lot more you can, diverse experiences you can have with hanging out with people that are different from you. And then,
When you were like growing up, both in middle school, high school, and then in college, in terms of your own like personal interests and aspirations, like you said, you had an interest in economics, right?
Initially,
and now you have like a pretty deep interest in like AI technology, that space as well. Was it mostly just like self-interest motivated, or like what were the motivations behind why you like even had an interest in economics and were doing those things? Was it to like have some extracurriculars for your future college prospects and things like that? Was it like parent influence, or what were the reasons why you took interest first in economics and then later in the AI space?
It's definitely not parent interest. Like I try to like I wasn't that close to my parents, I don't think. I was pretty independent, I think, and I didn't live that long with my mom or my dad. I haven't seen my dad in like for the past. It's a different story, but yeah. Since I came here, I didn't see my dad, so I haven't seen my dad for like several years, and then my mom I didn't see when I was growing up as well because she was busy and stuff, and so I think was pretty independent growing up, and then so economics I just wanted to learn about, since I was living in different parts of the world. I just wanted to understand what's going on, and then economics is actually really tied to history. So I was learning this history as well. So because like for example, like one of my friends from Egypt in high school, he was an exchange student from Egypt. So he told me he was very like anti-Obama. So what are you like? Why are you anti-Obama? I was like, okay, because like most of the like minorities are pro like Democrat in the U.S. right? So that was really refreshing. He's like, oh, okay. So he didn't like the Middle East policy, and like and I started looking into like the Middle East policy, and then Obama talks about like so and then like Middle East, so there's a lot of the history goes back, and then I think influences people to this day. Like for example, if you see like Germany, there's a lot of Turkish immigrants in Germany, Algerian immigrants in France, and like that's all like because those countries are like either like previous colonies or like allies. Like Turkey was like an ally to Germany in World War I. So you can like explain people's behaviors from today based on history. So, but history is also tied to economics. So that's how I got interested in economics. But I think to do more impactful stuff, I thought I need to work on technology in 2025 or in 2015 back, yeah. And then so I started reading like program essays in middle school.
Nice.
And then so right around the time when I was in Vermont, when I got introduced to Peter Thiel and like those guys, and like started looking into how like Snapchat CEO like started a company, and like started reading program essays, and started to think more like a programmer, because I thought of myself more as like a economist and like become a lawyer or something. But at that point, that was a really, really big inflection point, because I think listening to podcasts is like a hack actually, because like if you grow up in a certain background or environment, like if your parents are doctors, you think like you don't know how like the tech world works, and then you don't know how to think like to prepare to go into the tech industry, or to decide to do math competitions in high school and stuff. But after you listen to podcasts from like mathematicians, physicists, computer scientists, tech founders, it's like hack. So you can learn from them, like learn about the worldview first, and then after learning about the worldview, I think it's easier to learn the material, like actual like math, physics, like go through the textbooks, because you find it more fun and interesting. Because if you listen to Terrence Tao's podcast and he talks about like going through like math, like books, like when he was 2 years old, and like how he found like some kind of concept interesting. Also, I think that kind of people like are influenced by that, so you can see like math as more interesting after you listen to podcasts from mathematicians and stuff. So I think I was influenced that way. Yeah.
And when did you start listening to podcasts pretty regularly?
I think around the time when I was in Vermont. So after around Vermont and in high school, because I actually
that's pretty early on.
Yeah, because I mean I didn't have a lot of friends growing up, because like I moved around a lot. So I mean I had a few close friends, but I didn't have a lot of friends, but I had a few close friends. So besides those guys, I mostly just spent a lot of time just going through Twitter, listening to podcasts, reading books, and then reading economics books, preparing for economics competitions, and then later on after I moved to California, mostly programming. Yeah.
When you talk to like the Korean friends you now have here in Seoul about podcasts, are they also listening to podcasts?
I don't think they listen to podcasts.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Just like how stark the difference is. Because I don't really listen to that much like music. It's like all just podcasts. And even when I was in undergrad, like I would say the podcasts that I listened to had much more of an impact on my own like curiosity and learning journey than did my like formal studies. So it's just like crazy.
Wait, what kind of podcasts did you listen to?
So I thought I was going to be like some sort of a professional investor. So I would say like 70 to 80% of my podcasts were investing related podcasts. So there's a podcast, Invest Like the Best, with Patrick O'Shaughnessy that got pretty big early on. Capital Allocators with Ted Seides, like the Morningstar, the Longview podcast, some of like the Bloomberg podcasts as well. I would say it was a combination of like individual investors who were early to the podcasting game, and then also more formal like news and macroeconomics related content. But my podcasting consumption has shifted like pretty dramatically to where now I'll listen to historians, still some economists, but also like tech thinkers as well. So it's changed a lot. But I mean, I started listening to podcasts like probably 2 or 3 hours per day when I was in undergrad, and I haven't kept up that same amount, but I've continued to listen to podcasts all throughout the last decade, and it has like had a really big impact in terms of my own learning.
You can just learn from people directly, because like if you're in Korea, you like if there's like Bill Gates gives a speech or something, like the journalists like translate it, and then like they just paraphrase it, and then just shrink it down to like some main points, but they miss a lot of stuff, miss a lot of nuances, miss a lot of specifics. And then if you just read that, I don't think a lot of information is lost, I think.
And what's your intuition of why there's not as many podcast listeners in Korea? Like even amongst your friend group, or people that you know that were like born and raised here, and like in like your AI circles, for example. Like any like instinct or? I
mean, like first of all, like there aren't that many podcasters in Korea right now. So if you want to listen to podcasts, you have to listen to podcasts in English. But a lot of people don't speak that good English, even if they go to school like SNU or Christ. So there's like a language barrier, culture barrier, and then they don't know what kind of podcasts to listen to. They don't know any people from the US. They don't know like Patrick O'Shaughnessy or like on podcasts or like David Sachs, doesn't kind of people, or Peter Thiel. There are a lot of people who don't know Peter Thiel and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you don't even know who Peter Thiel is, like who do you, like, why would you listen to like those kind of guys?
Yeah. That makes sense. I do want to ask you a little bit about your experience in Korea so far.
Yeah.
Because so you've been here for almost a year now.
Well, during COVID, I was here for like 3 years.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
For 3 years?
Yeah.
Oh, and you just came back because of the COVID situation?
No, yeah. So started COVID in 2020. I came back, and then went back to the US, 23, and then came back 24.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what has it been like? Because even I guess before that there was a stretch of time where you weren't in Korea. Right. So like, did you have friends here and like?
No, I knew no one when I first got here.
Really?
Yeah. In 2020, when I first got here, I basically knew no one. I just I took like online classes at Georgia Tech. So like the classes were like around like 1 to 6 a.m. Here. So I took classes there. I took like midterms at like 3 a.m. finals at 3 a.m. 4 a.m. And then I went to bed, and then I got up at like 12 or like 1, and then I just went outside to play basketball for a bit with just random strangers, and I found a few like foreigners. There's a basketball park at Yeouido Park. I see some foreigners, and I'm like, wait, how did you guys find here? And they're like, oh yeah, when I typed like basketball court, like this is the first place that showed up. And I was like, okay, cool. So I met like this guy from LA, and like there's these other guys from U Michigan. At the time it was during COVID, so I think they all came back here. So I played basketball with this other just random guys, and then I spent my time I spent like a year kind of like that, but I didn't make any meaningful friends. I was like, okay, I don't think I have like no friends, and I'm wasting my time in college. Okay, I should probably try to make more friends. So that's when I went on to SNU as a visiting student. That's just 2021, and this was still during COVID. So all the classes were online, so I still couldn't make any friends. So I took some like sports classes like tennis and swimming, and then but I wanted to connect with people that had similar interests as me. So that's why I starting new clubs like VR Club at the time, and then now AttentionX AI Club. I can talk more about, but yeah. So VR Club. So I'm into VR right now as well. So I think I was into VR since I've obviously like felt like very tangibly felt like the limitations of not being physically present at different places. Like I really want to be in Silicon Valley for the majority of my life, but I wasn't there. So I feel like I wanted to work on technology that could facilitate presence, like telepresence, and like reducing the physical boundaries. So I think I've been into AR and VR since then. So I started VR Club in 2021, and that's where the majority of my friends are from right now, are from clubs that I started. And also I feel like clubs are really important because I feel like for like the traditional like tech startup route to take. So I think tech startups is like one of the best ways to not only do something meaningful and build products and technology, but it's also one of the best ways to obviously like be successful and like gain leverage in society in 2025 and in the 21st century. So for the conventional like tech startup trajectory, like usually like the founder is like goes to like a competitive high school, like they did really well in high school, like did competition math, and they go to good school, and after they go to good school they meet a friend, and then they start a startup, and then that's like the path. Like I don't think that's the most popular path right now, but that has been the popular path like in the 2010s and like early 2000s, like Sam Altman, Patrick Collison, Mark Zuckerberg. But I think the missing part was like making friends in college. So after you go to college, you need to meet your potential co-founders. Yep. But I feel like so even if you take like CS classes at Berkeley or Georgia Tech or SNU, still it could be challenging to meet people that have like similar interests as you. So that's why I feel like technical clubs like VR AI Club or Blockchain Club or those kind of clubs are actually pretty good places to start startups. And I think a lot of startups came out of those kind of clubs, and you get to meet with people in the industry. So people in the industry want to connect with college students and they want to like either recruit or they want to invest in new startups. So a lot of industry like VCs or people working in like blockchain or AI, they come to give talks at like ML at Berkeley or blockchain at Berkeley and like those kind of clubs. So I think clubs are really good. So I think clubs in the US are really good. Like machine learning at Berkeley has been around for like over I think 10 years or like, and then VR at Berkeley's also it's been around for like 10 years. But in SNU, I don't think the clubs were that active or that good. So, and then I think so, but this is one of the best ways to get introduced to people in the industry. So I feel like that was missing, but I also want to make new friends. So clubs serve those two kind of purposes for me. So fortunately, like, for the VR club, we took up pretty fast. We got like 250 applicants for our first recruit, but
really?
we only accepted like 50.
How did you get so many applicants? Why was there so much interest in it?
But at the time, so like I was into VR, and then we started off as a VR club, and then a few months after we started, like Meta, like Facebook changed their name to Meta, and everyone was interested in like VR all of a sudden. So that was that year. So that was around that time. So that was a peak Metaverse hype. So we got introduced to a lot of cool people, and then there's like a founder called that made Anypang. Anypang's like a game like 10 million people use in Korea. I think they sold their company for like 300 million or something. So the Anypang founder is an exit founder. So he supported us. Like he has like a building at like Apgujeong or something. He lent us his like the second floor in his building. He bought us like a lot of VR headsets.
Wow.
Because he was trying to do a VR startup. Because he did Anypang because he was in the game creating games. But at the time, like mobile games was like the cutting edge technology. But right now, like VR is cutting edge technology for gaming. So he's running a VR startup right now. He wanted to recruit people, but he couldn't find like anyone who's doing VR in Korea. So he was really supportive of our group. So we got our support. So we ran like events. And then we got to invite a lot of cool people like Hashid co-founder. I'm not sure if you know Hashid. Hashid's like
I've heard of it.
Yeah, Hashid co-founder, and then like Kai's professor and Anypang founder. And I got introduced to a lot of cool people and learned a lot. And then it was definitely like easier to learn and more broadly and more in depth about VR with other people, because they'll tell me about like different kind of like VR libraries that I didn't know about and SDKs. So, but like starting like doing more VR programming, I realized that VR is like a really high level like programming stack, because like if you use like Unity and like other like kind of SDKs, they're really high level. So like you don't have to do much math or like for the most part. So I wanted to do more research in computer vision and try to like do more AI stuff, because there's a lot of AI applications in VR, right? Because like computer vision and AR, you need to do really good computer vision to do AR.
When you had mentioned that you were taking courses from Korea at Georgia Tech, like your AI, like VR, AR interests, is that part of what fueled your interest in that space? Was the whole like remote learning experience, or even before that?
No, I think it was before that.
And what is? I feel like there's been a few different waves of hype, like the Facebook changing its name to Meta and kind of going all in on the metaverse, right? It seems like more recently that's kind of fizzled out a little bit. It's like cooled down. What is like kind of the future that you see and envision as it relates to how people will interact with like AI technology and specifically like virtual reality? Like, is there something very specific that you see in terms of how things will play out, or you think this is just a general trend and you want to position yourself where a lot of like innovation is possible?
I mean, like obviously, like I'm not like a industry insider or something, but I listen to a lot of podcasts from Mark Zuckerberg and like Pamalaki. So Mark Zuckerberg like says like obviously like smart glasses, like, it's gonna be the ultimate form factor, because like the headsets right now are too heavy and bulky. So you can't, obviously it's like kind of socially like kind of frowned upon if you're just walking around with a VR. It's kind of cringe. Right. So Mark Zuckerberg says like so it's kind of like the glasses form factor is kind of probably gonna be like pretty cool. It's acceptable, and like it could be like it could be like sunglasses, like the shades could come down. You could do VR and the shades could come up. It could be like glasses, you could do AR. So that's the vision for Meta. And then Pamalaki, he's also trying to get into VR again. So Pamalaki, you know Pamalaki, right? Yep. Yeah, Pamalaki, he sold Oculus, and then now he's doing Unreal. But so Unreal, they started working on like sensor fusion and then like drone technology, and then now, but they recently announced that they got a contract from DoD like a couple days ago. Really? To build like the smart glasses for the DoD. Yeah. So, but I think but he was on the podcast 2 days ago, and then he said he wants to do more like in consumer stuff because this is just the start.
With the AttentionX community that you started, in terms of how many people are, I guess like a few questions. One is like, how many people are involved with it? Like, what are the profiles of the individuals that are part of the club? And I'm also just curious in terms of, because you consume so much, let's say like Western, like tech content, right? And you know a bit about how startups work in the US, like your observations around like Koreans, their mindset, the way that they choose to pursue innovation. Because I see a lot of like Koreans that speak some English, and they're trying to build a global startup. So they move to the Bay Area, right? And they're trying to become successful. I'm curious more in terms of like your overall observations around like that trend, issues that you see, opportunities that you see. I'm just curious more about like what you have seen.
I feel like I've learned a lot more about the Silicon Valley ecosystem. Like, so during high school, I mean, I was like more like an observer, like just listening and like to information. I mean, that was useful as well. But when I got to Berkeley, I mean, I was actually like, so my advisor was I worked on a project at Rise Lab. So you know Databricks, right?
I've heard of
Databricks. I recently raised like a funding round, like $10 billion funding round at a $70 billion valuation. But Databricks' 3 co-founders are Berkeley professors. They're each worth like 3 to 5 billion. And then the CEO was my advisor, and like so I worked on a project with them. So when I got to Silicon Valley at Berkeley, I feel like I learned a lot more about how it actually works. So I think just overall, I think just all the like the top people being more accessible is one thing. So for example, like I told you about AJ House right last time. So AJ House is like a hacker house started by like Jeremy Nixon and Andrew Karpathy. Andrew Karpathy is like co-founder of OpenAI and Tesla AI lead. So they host like events and hackathons, but I mostly don't like hackathons because hackathons I feel like it's kind of like I don't think the people are that good, and you're just only working on the project for like a few hours, and like you don't really get to like work on like the edge of technology, but you just like call a bunch of APIs and stuff. So generally I don't like API hackathons, but AJ hackathons were pretty good because they had the best guests. They had Eric Schmidt, Sergey Brin, and Andrew Karpathy as guests, and then like they invited like 100 people when I was there 4 times, but for one of the times when Eric Schmidt came, they invited 100 people. Like 50 people from Harvard, MIT, 50 people from Stanford, Berkeley, Caltech. So it was really cool to meet other different kinds of people. And then also Adam D'Angelo was there. Adam D'Angelo is the chairman of OpenAI at the time. Eric Schmidt is like the second CEO of Google, and you get to meet these kind of people at Silicon Valley parties like AJ House. But in Korea, like where can you meet like chairman of Kakao? There's no place like that. And then so I directly talked. So I got to talk to. I mean, they're also pretty chill too. Like I mean, I went up to like Adam D'Angelo. I talked to him like what kind of startups do you find interesting these days? Like what are you focused on? So this is 2023. So he told me he was interested in agents, and he wants to like host a lot of agents for his platform Po. And then the U.com CEO was also there. I told him like, oh yeah, your product sucks. Like, you have your professor like, hey, why don't you just work on like video search or something? Like, it's oh yeah, video's too expensive and those kind of stuff. So you get to talk to like people there, like actually ask questions, and so I think the openness, and then like I don't think the top people are more hierarchical in Korea. So
yeah, that's an interesting observation. Like I obviously know the hierarchical dynamic exists here, and it's very strong. But in terms of, let's say like middle-aged people who have become successful doing something innovative, like there is a lot more involvement with the youth, right? Of just like having conversations or sharing their ideas. And it doesn't seem like there's as much of that happening in Korea, or that many opportunities, or that there's like maybe a layer of like friction that exists in terms of just like casual open conversation. Like it feels like generally speaking, there's a lot of divisiveness within Korean society, whether it is across industries or across generations. Whereas in the US, that there is some like especially political divisiveness that exists, but there's still cross conversational discussions that are happening as well. I think people in the US, obviously Silicon Valley, like everyone, like I think half the population in California are immigrants, like not just like from outside the country, but like from like New Jersey or like Texas or whatever. So everyone's more open to like try new things, meet new people, talk to more people, and then they all start out that way. So like East Coast people, there are a lot of like
like like more people who had like hedge fund dads or something. But
Yeah.
in California, I think there are a lot of people in Silicon Valley, they start off with nothing, and then I think they're more willing to help people that are up and coming people, and then see the potential in up and coming people. So, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about AttentionX, like the
Oh, yeah.
community, the background of the people that
Right.
exists,
Yeah,
and
right.
what you guys do.
Yeah, right. So I started AttentionX to work on do more AI stuff after, because the people at my VR club, XREAL, didn't want to do AI. So okay, I'll just start my own thing. Okay. So actually I wanted to join a lab to do AI, but I think properly, in order to do like proper like AI, to go deep into it and write papers and stuff, I think the lab is the best environment. But at the time I knew like I had to do my military service, so I couldn't do it work at a lab, because I talked to some professors, they're like, oh yeah, you can't be at a lab while doing your military service. So okay, I guess I had to just work with like other like military people doing the military service to work on AI and write papers. So I started AttentionX around like late 23, actually late 22, and then so right before I went back to the US. I went back to the US briefly, but that was around when ChatGPT came out. So 2022, late 2022 was a really inflection point in AI as well, because Stable Diffusion and ChatGPT came out within like 3 month span. So I started like the VR club like a few months before Facebook changed it to Meta, and then like the AI club right around like Stable Diffusion and ChatGPT came out. So we also got a lot of people interested in AttentionX from the start. And then so since most of my friends from Korea are from SNU, because I went to school there for a year.
So you went to, because you were doing the Georgia Tech stuff online for like a year,
yeah,
and then you did the SNU stuff for a year,
yeah.
and then you transferred to Berkeley after that.
So this was between like SNU and Berkeley. So essentially I started out as mostly people I knew from SNU, and like my friends and friends of friends. And then and also like I think half the people, like almost half, were like also doing alternative military service, so they're all interested in doing AI.
What is the qualification for doing alternative military service? How can you do it?
So the law changed like three years ago. So you have to, people who need to go to military are like they get physical examinations. Everyone else need to get physical examinations. If you get like grade 1, 2, or 3, you need to go to the military. If you get it like grade 4, you do like alternative service, like you work at like a hospital or something, you work at like some kind of like government agency or something. And grade 5 is you get exemption. So for people who actually have to go to the military, like grade 1, 2, and 3, you need to pass some kind of test. You need to get some kind of like, you have to be a CS or electrical engineering major. You need to be your junior standing or above, and then you need to get some kind of like certification for the work you want to do. So it takes like 6 months to get that kind of, to study for the certification to get that, and then you need to get hired by a company. So the hiring process is the same. You just apply and then you do coding test or whatever, and then hiring process is the same for like the normal like people who apply as software engineers for new grads. So you have to compete with new grads and like everyone else in the labor market, and you need to get hired, and then so there are only like a handful of companies that are designated to hire alternative military service people. So you can't just work at Samsung or Naver. You can so there are only like a startup. You can only work at a handful of selected startups that were approved by the government to do your military service. So and then after all that you start working in a company. And for a lot of companies, for the first 3 months, they don't want to hire you off the bat, because you might be kind of bad, like it might not be a good fit. So you don't actually start the military service when you start, but you have to do like 3 months like of like kind of what do you call that, like you're like, you start off as an intern for 3 months, and then after you convert to like a regular like employee, that's when you actually start, and then that's when your 2-year time mark starts, and then you do it for 2 years or 3 years.
So you said the law has recently changed to where it's a little bit different now.
So right now, it used to be the case where like people who got like grade 1, 2, or 3 that went to the military could get the certificate and do the military service. Now it's impossible. So those people, they have to go to the military, or they have to get a master's, and then if you get a master's, you can do the military service. You can do the alternative military service working in a startup. But for undergrads, you can't do that anymore.
Can you tell me, like, in terms of your personal considerations, like it seems like because the AI space is moving so quickly and there's so much innovation that 2 years is like a really big cost, right?
Yeah.
And unless maybe you have plans to be in like Korea long term, maybe build a business here, like have roots here, like the cost is massive, right? Especially if you just want to go back to the States. Did you know you were going to come back? Because you didn't even, I mean, you spent some years here, right? But most of your interest, it seems like, was US focused. Was it a no-brainer for you that you would do military service, or like what was the consideration?
I mean, my mom kind of made me, and then also, but like I feel like taking a break from school is actually pretty good to pursue your interest, I think. So while you're doing school, you're trying to do good and get good grades. So you're kind of busy just going over the course material. You don't have much time to explore your other interests. So I think it was a good opportunity to dive deeper into like my other interests, like more 3D, video diffusion, recently more geometry processing and optimal transport, those kind of math stuff. So you don't get to like do those kind of stuff while you're in school. So you don't have time if you want to get good grades. So for me, like I tried to get good grades when I was in high school, so I in college. So I didn't have time to do those. So I feel like it was a great opportunity for me to work on those and maybe write free papers. So, and because most undergrads, they don't write papers at international publications, at international conferences. So I feel like if I do more math, it'd be time well spent.
With the AR VR community that you had started previously, and then also with like AttentionX, in terms of like starting new groups or new organizations, I mean, even that takes some like time and efforts and management, right? And for you as somebody who, like, it seems like for most of your upbringing and childhood, you were very much independent. Like, what was the motivation behind doing that? Was it just like making friends for the most part? And like, what were some of the learnings that you had?
Like I said earlier, like I feel like for the tech founder like trajectory, like you get good grades in high school, you go to good college, and then you meet your friends, and then you start a startup. But I think in college you need to making really meaningful friends, lifelong friends that have similar interests as you goes a long way. So in order to do that, I feel like clubs were really important, but the clubs here kind of sucked.
So start your own.
Because I didn't want to because if there was a good club, I wouldn't have started a club myself. But I didn't like see that many good clubs here. And
do you feel like in terms of what your hopes were with the clubs, that they served its purpose in terms of meeting just good friends and potential partners in the future?
Yeah, so AttentionX, I think XREAL, I feel like AttentionX got XREAL was mostly SNU based in the beginning, but now they're like less SNU people and like more like people from other colleges, and then but AttentionX, I think we have really good high quality people, and we started off like mostly Korean based, like people mostly like 80% were SNU, like 20% were from KAIST. And besides me and this other guy from Oxford, like there aren't that many people from the US or like other countries. But now I think we have more people from US and other countries. Like we have 3 people from Stanford, 3 from CMU, like 6 from Berkeley, and like and other like friends of friends, and like that just come to our events and like in our Discord and broader community. And we have from like people from like Ryan. Actually, Ryan Kim from Yale. He's like the co-author of a humanities last exam. Do you know the humanities last exam? It's like a benchmark that came out recently. It's like the fundament. So LMs are crushing with all the benchmarks, so they need to come with like a really hard benchmark. So Scale AI and Center for AI Safety recently released a really hard exam that mostly consisted of like graduate level exams from biology, like history and like math and other stuff. So is it kind of, I mean, a lot of people criticize it because like, I mean, how can you call last exam like there obviously there's gonna be like hard exams. So I kind of get that, but I think it was a pretty good initiative, and then Ryan was actually part of that. So we have people that are actually part of like cutting edge like this kind of projects, and even in Silicon Valley centers. So Ryan's did that. Ryan's part of that, and then like to mention to like shout out to a couple of my more friends, like so Josh like used to run like EA Club at Stanford. So I think he like invited like Peter Thiel and Gary Tian to Stanford, and then like so he's also really well into the Silicon Valley community. And then Seokwon, like he's an exited founder. He's like 20, he's like 21, but he's an exited founder. And then he's doing a startup with like a Harvard professor, Julia Lee. And then and Julia Lee was a co-author of a physics paper that won the Nobel Prize in 2011. So yeah, so we have a lot of cool people here. I think people in Korea, like my friends from AttentionX, they all like really appreciate and like learn a lot from like people from the US, like the mindset and like the culture and like how we bring like a meme culture and like we bring a lot of you should like check out Twitter and stuff. So I think people enjoy that. Yeah.
Do you feel like since you have spent the last year here and like started these communities that you have become more assimilated into Korean culture over time, or do you still feel like you're very much more of an American mindset?
Yeah, I think I've been assimilating a lot. Yeah, I've been assimilating more into Korean culture after I started dating some people here. But more recently, I've been friends with people from the US, like I told you, like Josh and Simon, all these guys. So since last year, I've been they were my closest friends. I hang out most of them, so I feel like I back on track and talk more about like what's going on in the US with those guys. So and also I'm preparing to go back to the US as well. So I'm trying to like get back to my like American mindset,
That makes sense. I feel like I've seen with a lot of Korean VCs like this pretty strong push to send like Korean founders that are trying to build something global into the Bay Area. And you see like these like houses or these communities of like Korean founders. In terms of your own thoughts around challenges or like what the future holds for a lot of like Korean entrepreneurs that are trying to do something big in the US. Do you think that there's a high probability that many of those individuals will be successful, or do you think that there's going to be there are challenges or specific issues that they face?
I mean, I think it's kind of cliche, but I think networks are really important because like I mean, everyone's smart. Like everyone went to good college in Silicon Valley. Everyone's like super smart. Everyone's good at programming. Everyone knows math, and there's a lot of good AI researchers. So I think you need to play the network game kind of right. But like if you go to Asia House, like I met like there's this one other Korean guy of the 100 people there. So Korean people when they're in SF or Silicon Valley, they just go to Korean parties. But actually they need to be at those kind of Asia House parties or like where the actual like because like the big players are mostly non-Korean, right? Like Existency, Sequoia, people that run there aren't Korean. Like I don't think I've seen any like Korean partners there.
Right.
So you actually need to be at those kind of things and events and learn from the culture, learn from the people there, and then so I think Korean people need to work on that.
Yeah, one of my hopes is like even here in Seoul is there are a number of like Korean Americans who worked at like big tech companies in the States for a few years. And then for one reason or another, they decided to come back here in Seoul and work on their own project, but they're not connected to a community. And my thinking is it would be pretty cool if there was some cross-pollination between like the Korean Americans that are founders and also some of the Koreans that are founders, but they tend to feel pretty disconnected or want to stay in their own lanes.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, might be a harder task than is actually possible.
Yeah.
But that's one of my hopes. And also in the Bay Area, I'm actually working on like some potential events where it would be some like cross collaboration between those two. So maybe some partnership with AttentionX would be helpful on that front as well. In terms of like you and your plans for this year and moving forward, do you think you'll, after your military service, you said you're going to go back to the States. Do you have any expectation of returning to Korea? Or what is your ultimate goal, like to be a founder and start your own startup? Or have you thought much about that?
Oh yeah. So actually, I didn't want, so when I was in Berkeley, I didn't want to come back. So actually, I interviewed for YC actually, and ACCZ, but actually, so I mean, I applied to a lot of different stuff, so because I could make an excuse, so I wouldn't come back, YC didn't work out. At the time, I didn't prepare that well. I mean, I just wrote the application in like one day, and the interview was like 2 days after. And in the interview, they're like, "Oh yeah, how many users did you talk to?" I was like, "Oh, none." So I got rejected that way. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in startups, but I feel like the startup ecosystem has changed a lot over the past 20 years. So it used to be the case where like just random like college kids, like freshman, sophomore year college kids, just build an application and they could just take off like Facebook or Stripe. So, but these days I think it's more competitive. There are a lot more professors working on it. So the college kids, I mean the people that are like, younger than Zuckerberg are like professors now, but they all like look up to Zuckerberg because they all grew up with Zuckerberg. They're all not professors now, so they all want to do startups. So some competitor, especially with AI. So the tech wave with AI, you need to be more technical to build a startup like Anthropic or like Luma, Runway, Tipika. So I think for this year, I think I want to focus more on research because obviously I can start a startup while doing my other service. It's legal, and then so and then so I'm there. I know some friends. I kind of like I hear that are working on stuff.
Yeah.
with the service.
It's just side projects.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, like, I won't mention them by name, but but I think I'm gonna focus on research for this year. Try to be at top of my field. Try to collaborate with people at the top of their field. Because I mean, obviously, Berkeley is like one of the best places to do AI research, and like some of my friends, like wrote a paper with. There's like a really famous professor called Chitanda Malik. He's like a top computer vision professor, one of the top in the field. And one of my friends, he's like class 24, class 25. He wrote a paper with him. He went to NVIDIA, like the world models team. So if you write a good paper with like one of the top people in the field and like do meaningful research, there are a lot of opportunities. So for this year, I'm trying to do more research. I'm working on, actually, I'm interning at Berkeley AI research at a lab, working on 3D reconstruction, and then doing a project with AttentionX and then another project with some people at 12 Labs. So working on 3 projects, and then I'll probably do more research with people at Berkeley over this year. And then I also wanted to explore some startup opportunities. So I've been talking to some startups. So I think joining like a really, I don't think you need to start your startup yourself. If you're like one of the first employees at OpenAI or like Google, Facebook, I think that's really, you can do like really meaningful work there. So there's a new startup that's kind of under stealth, but it's called Spatial AI. And there's another startup called Spatial in the AR space that's been around for a few years, but it's a different startup. So Spatial was founded by like Professor TMU, who used to be a professor at Stanford, and then like a few other researchers from Facebook and Google who are working on 3D research. So these guys came together and started a startup. They just announced it on Twitter like last week or something. So I actually interviewed for them last week. And then I told them, oh yeah, actually I'm doing military service. I'm graduating like next year. And okay, bro, that's like a year and a half later. Like, why are you here right now? I was like, okay, but can you do like an internship? With like, we'll think about it. So it's been, so yeah, I feel like if I wasn't doing the military service, I could have done, I mean, I talked to like some other companies as well in Silicon Valley that got funding from AI grant and like other companies. So I guess I missed out on those kind of opportunities. So it kind of bummed me out, but I guess I should try to play the long game and do research, and then try to do research to get even further in the field, get more recognition in the field, and then work on. So I think my ultimate goal is to work on innovative 3D research that can accelerate spatial applications. Like I think there are going to be a lot of, because like in the beginning of the internet, a lot of people like worked on like internet software, like so like web hosting, and like there's like companies that for website building, and then like DDoS protection and those kind of companies. So I think there are gonna be a lot of companies that are that build B2B tools for spatial applications, AR, VR, and AI, using AI. So I think there are going to be a lot more companies that come in this space. Right now the market is really smart, but over the next 5 years, I think there are going to be more. So hopefully after I finish my military service and go back to Berkeley, do more research, then I could either start or be part of one of those companies that make impact in the field.
So from here, so you have the next year in Korea, and then you'll go back to Berkeley, and you'll be a junior or a senior?
I'll have 2 to 3 semesters, depending on how many courses I take. So
Okay, and then you're hoping to stick around in the Bay for the
I'll probably try to stick around the Bay for the next 10 years.
For the next 10 years. Okay. Cool. Well, I think we're gonna run up on time pretty soon here. But it's funny for me to have conversations with other like English speakers in like the just the ecosystem, because even when we first met at the last Cambridge event,
Yeah.
like I didn't realize how much like international exposure you had until I started talking to you.
Yeah.
And like you took me to the Jimmy John's in Gangnam, and that was I didn't even realize there was a Jimmy John's around.
Yeah.
You know, and then even in terms of like your own personal interests of like the Super Bowl that kind of hangout that you were organizing, or you were just like watching the NBA All-Star game, is there aren't that many people, you know, like that.
No one
that
wants
have
a Super Bowl here.
Yeah. Were you guys able to figure out some sort of setup to?
There were like 6-7 people that came.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, 8, with including people from Nantes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I am increasingly finding more, not necessarily Korean Americans, but people who have spent time in the States and then also like went to international schools, and they're working on like their own startups. They might not be like in Seoul proper, but like in the vicinity. Yeah. And they're not connected to a larger ecosystem, you know? And so even for you to create like a club where you attracted all like the AI talent, even with Cambridge, I hope to find as many like English speaking founders as possible that are working on cool projects. And then people can just share different ideas. I feel like maybe multidisciplinary learning is, it doesn't seem like it's embraced as much. You know, I think that's a challenge that I've had even with like Cambridge in terms of some people will say like, who is Cambridge for? And it's like, you're 24, interested in the AI field. I like having a conversation with you. But then there might be like a 45-year-old person working in a completely different industry. And as long as they're open to having a conversation, like, and I feel like I can learn from them, then I have the conversation. And it might not make sense to some people of like, you need to pick one niche. But I feel like having a more open-minded approach has, for my curiosity, has been much better. So that's something that I hope to continue to do, and I hope it's possible that an ecosystem like this can continue to thrive. Because I feel like there's a lot of value in having conversations with people in
we should definitely host
industries.
more events and stuff.
Well, at least we've got you through the end of this year. And I'm planning, as long as I can figure out my own visa situation, to stick around through this year.
Oh, so how long are you planning on staying here?
So, I mean, if it was up to me, I would stick around through the end of 2025 and then see how things pan out.
Oh, so end of this year. So
yes,
the same as me. Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm on the tourist visa right now, and so I have to leave every 90 days, and then I can come back. But I've heard that if you spend more than 180 days out of the 365, that like customs will start to like interrogate you about like, you know, why are you abusing the system? So I technically qualify for the like F4 visa, which is like overseas Korean visa. But my parents have some issues with documentation. So I need to figure out some sort of a workaround. And there's a few like startup visas that I think I can apply for. It would just require me to incorporate Cambridge in Korea. So I've got to do some more investigation before it gets too
And you
late.
can host more events in the Bay Area and like try to get people from here to come to the Bay Area.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, I have a few friends in the Bay Area, and they're hosting events. But usually it's for like Koreans. But then I have a few Korean American friends that are starting their own companies, and so I hope that people will be open to interacting with each other. So maybe later this year we can do one of those types of events in Seoul too.
Yep, sure.
Sweet. Thanks, Adam. Thanks
for doing this. Thanks for having me.